Well, guys, we are back for another episode of the Liberal Asshole Show, episode 140, again on Wednesday, because bad timing for both of us. So, what are today's topics?
Charlie Kirk destroyed by MAGA. Jordan Peterson nearly dies again. Leaked texts expose how evil young Republicans are. Hamas-Israeli war paused for now. Joe Rogan's FAFO. And Ukraine is crippling Russia's oil industry.
Oh boy, 6 topics today. So, what do we start off with first?
Let's start with Charlie Kirk destroyed by MAGA repeatedly.
And I'm going to say this right now, I think this might be one of the people that we covered last week when they had that debate at that black college and got chased off. I'm not fully sure, so I'm not going to say it is not, but I just want to point that out because I think he might be. So, yeah, he was exposed, basically trying to be a grifter at Charlie Kirk's death, trying to become the next Kirk, which, as much as we hate him, that's still really unprofessional and uncool. Come on, man. Kirk, piece of shit, and yes, he was a grifter and paid his way to it, but he did put more effort into it than you ever would do. Come on, work for your effort like we've had to do. So, yeah, let's watch this.
All right, y'all, we got to talk about this. I like to call him the Timu Charlie Kirk. He is the Charlie Kirk replacement. Who, I'm not kidding about this. I'm not even kidding. Within an hour of Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck and killed on TV.
And may I add, if it was when he got shot, I don't think he was announced he was killed 2 hours later, wasn't it?
I think it was where it hit. He was functionally dead almost immediately due to where it hit.
No, I mean
then he died a couple hours later.
Yeah, so perhaps potentially tried to start becoming the next Kirk before he actually died. That's pretty sad. That's
this
very
dude
sad.
Was on cable news going, damn, bro, that sucks, man, but I'm ready to pick up that microphone and take over for him.
Dude, you're a nobody.
You've
come
got
on.
to be kidding me, bro. You have got to be kidding me. Look, I'm going to let all y'all know this right now.
Yeah.
If I ever get murked and it's recorded, please, anybody who comes out within an hour or two of me being killed and is like, man, we love Kyle, but I'll take over, excise them from the movement completely. Just persona non grata, bro. Done. Over. It's a wrap. Because that shit is creepy as hell. The guy you allegedly care about so much gets murked on TV with a fucking tsunami of blood coming out of his neck, and you're on TV within an hour or two going, yeah, man, that sucks, but anyway, I'm still here. Oh, my God.
Kill them! Just kill them! Genuinely!
Optics, bro. Optics. Timing. Come on.
A guy by the name of Bryland Hollyhand. Yes, that's his real name. As somebody pointed out on Twitter.
What a fucking name!
If, at least Charlie Kirk is a normal name, right? Your name is Bryland Hollyhand. Bro, you sound like you were born with a, $400 million trust fund. You sound like
Kirk
you were born on third and thought you had a triple. You sound like you'd be invited to the fucking Masters because your dad sits on the board of Augusta National. You know what I'm saying? And I love the Masters as much as anybody. But you get my point, right? You get my point. This kid's in the fucking polo club. So his name is Bryland Hollyhand. And, bro, as soon as Charlie was killed, this dude just started pretending like he was the next big thing. Hold on. He was on Ben Shapiro within a week, acting like he was the next big thing. Ben Shapiro was anointing him the next big thing. It's like, wait, you guys can't just make up that somebody is the next big thing. In order to be the next big...
Benny boy, you're more likely to be the next thing because you're big, unlike this guy. Come on.
You have to be the next big thing. You have to already have a decent following. Maybe not as big as Charlie's, but a decent following. And so then it would be natural for... But no.
It has to be naturally grown people. Come on.
I'm here.
Pretty much
so
exactly.
ready for this? Look at this. The Rolex-wearing teen who claimed a private jet ride was a favor because he couldn't afford to drive himself, charges $7,500 for a 2-hour appearance.
Why do you think people
Sting has
why do you think
discovered.
most of the anti-woke grifters channels are dying now?
Yeah, because they're bored and irrelevant.
Fortune off low-income housing in Alabama.
And now all the anti-woke people, all the people making fun of the woke scolds are big now.
So yeah, I'm burying the lead here. But okay, so this is Bryland right here, as you can see on screen. He literally recorded a video in a fucking private jet wearing a Masters polo and a Rolex, and he was like, hey, this college, if you're there, still wait in line. I'm on my way there. We're about to have our next event. I hear there's a lot of people there, bro. I'll be there soon. Hang in there. Wait for me. First of all, there's no fucking line to see you. There's no packed auditorium to see you. And it didn't occur to you to not record in a fucking private jet wearing a Rolex and a Masters polo?
You're out of touch,
see
basically,
how this sort of
pal.
the whole thing about Charlie... The
always will be, always has
around
been,
him,
always
well,
will
not
be.
necessarily a myth, but
Only wear
the whole,
polos we
the
do
narrative around
interviews
him
at
was,
work, like
here's
me.
a guy who didn't even go to college. He's just a regular schmegular guy. Didn't even go to college, and he still owns these liberals at these big universities, bro, because that's
Yeah, and I'm sure if we saw your videos, you edit them to make yourself look better, pal. We know how all you grifting right-wingers are.
It makes sense to be conservative. We're anti-elitist. And then here he is like, I am the elitist, Bryland Hollyhand. Oh my god. MAGA is fucking pissed at this guy. So this is in the Daily Mail. He's a rich Alabama boy positioning himself as the next Charlie Kirk, but insiders say he's a complete fraud, charging obscene sums in wake of shooting that shook America. A bitter MAGA...
really? Trying to profit off it?
Of course, that's what grifters do. Maybe you could get involved. Maybe you could get involved with Candace Owens.
Don't
they can anoint themselves king and queen. They can anoint themselves king and queen grifters.
Careful, he might be open about his anti-Semitism even more.
The war fight has broken out over the abrupt ascent of Bryland Hollyhand, a 19-year-old conservative podcaster from a wealthy Alabama family who's been accused of positioning himself to be the heir to Charlie Kirk's activist empire. Bryland Hollyhand is a...
Buddy, we're going to tell you right now, it ain't going to be you. So know your place.
No, definitely not.
Who has no grassroots experience, no activism experience, and no business
Candace Owens
billing himself as the next Charlie Kirk.
Herself as the next big thing.
And she's going to have a better chance than you, pal.
Yeah.
Every single conservative dipshit other than you is going to have a better chance at replacing Kirk. Know your role and know your place.
William Donahue, 26, chairman of the College Republicans of America, told the Daily Mail. So let's be clear. This is not Kyle Klinsky shitting on this kid. This is not the Majority Report shitting on this kid. This is not any liberal or lefty or even centrist. This is the head of the College Republicans of America going, hey man, fuck this kid. All right, here we go. Donahue worked directly with Kirk's Turning Point Action Group during the 2024 election cycle to register voters for Donald Trump. He was first introduced to Hollyhand when the teen who began his podcasting career in 4th grade was appointed to chair the Republican National Committee's Youth Advisory Council. Donahue says he reached out to Hollyhand in 2024, urging him to work with the RNC to build a unified college Republican infrastructure for voter registration. But he claims Hollyhand was more interested in promoting himself. Quote, he did nothing. We never saw him, Donahue said. He spoke at a couple of campuses, at a couple of events. He never joined us in any ballot-chasing initiatives. He never registered any voters with us. The only thing he has done is use the position he had with the Youth Advisory Council to build a podcast and build his own brand. It's a disgrace to Charlie's legacy, he said. All right.
And that's pretty sad to say it. You're an embarrassment to Kirk. Like,
Charlie's
come on.
Legacy,
that's pretty sad.
Let me just pause to point out, y'all can stop pretending that, like, the point was not self-promotion for Charlie, too.
Yeah,
and the
it
point's
was.
not self-promotion for
He was
Benny
a grifting
Johnson and
cunt,
the rest of these
too.
schmucks.
Benny Johnson was bragging it's promotion for all of them.
Yep. Now, that doesn't mean he should be killed or anything, of course, since we have to keep saying it because people take everything too far. But let's be honest, he was a piece of shit and he was a grifter.
Hey, I got Jimmy Kimmel fired because the FCC head, Brendan Carr, was on my show when he issued the threat and said we do this the easy way or the hard way. He was taking credit for it. Now, then when the narrative came out and they realized, oh shit, it's illegal for that to be the case, so now we got to pretend like, oh no, ABC made that decision on themselves. He immediately did an about-face and started pretending the opposite. But at the beginning, he was bragging. Why? Because all these motherfuckers, yes, do they care about right-wing politics? Sure. But really, first and foremost, they're fucking actors, right? They're actors. He's a self-promoter.
Well,
right? So was Charlie, by the way. I know you're not allowed to say things like that since he's now not with us anymore, but I debated him. Yes, he's like that. Of course they are. All these right-wing creeps are. This all comes as Hollyhand embarks on 10-stop college campus tour, mirroring Kirk's events, further infuriating some of Kirk's allies who see it as an attempt to corner the Turning Point audience just weeks after the conservative icon was laid to rest. Guys, can I just point this out real quick? And this is super important to me. This is super important. The reason why everybody is just like sort of innately having this reaction, just intuitive, this gut, this visceral, like, fuck this kid, this is gross. The reason why people are reacting like that is because, very simply put, you didn't earn your stripes, bro. You didn't earn your stripes.
Exactly.
You can't just hop in front of the fucking line. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, you can't just do it. Now, Charlie was one of one. There's going to be, I don't know if there's anybody else who's going to be able to marry, like, college Republican activism with, like, having a podcast and being a host in their own respect.
Oh, there's going to be someone
but,
eventually.
Like, there's other people who are way fucking closer to that than you, Brylan. right? And that's what people do not respect somebody who it appears like everything was fucking handed to you. You got to skip the line.
If only
you got
conservatives
it all handed
had
to
a
you.
few more
You're
often.
going with a silver spoon in your mouth. You don't even fucking realize it or acknowledge it. That's why people are furious with this kid, right? Because it's just so selfish. It's so
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Bro, what? What? How many
It's
fucking
fun being able to say
conservative
it.
hosts
It's
are out
funny. It's fun able to say it since I work now.
there that have been,
Yes.
just trying hard as hell on a daily basis on the dregs of fucking YouTube or
You bust
podcast world or
tables.
Spotify
You
or
roll
wherever the fuck.
silverware.
And
Be
they have
the
a
best
bigger
in the
audience
business
than
at it.
Brylan, but now Brylan gets promoted all over the place, and he gets to
Yeah.
go out there and say, "I'm doing a 10-city tour." What does that even mean? What does that mean? Bitch, I can barely do a 10-city tour. I could if I wanted to, but I've been doing this since 2012 full time. But the idea, I'm doing a 10-city tour, it just sounds so fucking pompous. Who are you? You're nobody, and you're doing a 10-city tour, a 10
And
college
Kyle would
tour
do
or
a
some
better
shit?
job
Oh my
at than
God.
you,
I
pal.
want to take a shower just thinking about this. All right, oh God, here's pictures of him.
He always would.
Here's him at the Cracker Barrel, because of course he had to hop on board whatever the fucking conservative scandal du jour is. Holly Hand, who calls himself the internet's youngest voice of reason, refutes the comparison to Kirk, posting on X, "I'll never be Charlie. I don't want to be Charlie. I can't. He was one of one. I'm Brylan." Nevertheless, his tour has been marred by these accusations and others. Now the Daily Mail has learned Holly Hand may also be charging colleges and universities to speak on their campuses. The Daily Mail reached out to Premier Speakers Bureau, an agency that helps connect speakers and organizations, posing as an interested college student, and received the following response. Brylan's fee is $7,500 plus coach class airfare and expenses for two. Is that within budget? When reached for comment, Holly Hand denied ever receiving a payment for speaking on a college campus.
Yeah.
He pays for his own travel costs. The Daily Mail then received another email from the Premier Speakers Bureau, which read in part, "For campus events, Brylan is happy to work with whatever budget is available to bring in a speaker. He loves speaking to student groups and wants to make himself available without budgets being a barrier." Oh my God. They say, oh, it costs $7,500. Then when they realize, oh shit, we just got caught. This was a sting operation. Now they're going to write an article about how you charge that much. Then they send a letter going, oh no, actually, we'll work with you if you're a college group. It can be less than that, bro. No big deal. Unlike Kirk, who built Turning Point USA from a grassroots organization headquartered in his parents' garage to a nonprofit hauling in $100 million annually, Holly Hand is often dismissed by critics as a child of privilege whose family made a fortune off of low-income housing construction in Alabama. All right, hold on. Let me pause. Hold on. They're trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, in every way, Charlie Kirk was a rags to riches story. Bro, where do you think he got that $100 million DZAX from, bro? And this is the difference between the right and the left, right? Is that Charlie Kirk, yes, he raised over $100 million, but that was from right-wing billionaires who fund right-wing think tanks who want to do right-wing propaganda. And they realize Kirk would be a really good propagandist for us, and he could help try to sway the youth and make them go Republican.
How could
That was the
anyone
goal.
find
So
Charlie
the idea, he raised $100
babyface
million.
Kirk's
No.
dipshit
$100
ass
million
convincing?
was
I'll
from
never get.
billionaires, sucking up to billionaires
Yeah.
who fund right-wing
He's a
think
fucking
tanks.
moron.
That's the difference. So that's what he does. I've never even talked to a billionaire. I've never talked to an ad company. I've never done an ad read. I've never talked to a billionaire. I don't fucking raise money like that because that's not pure. You are biasing what you're doing because now they get veto power over what your agenda is, right? And that's why you saw Charlie on a number of different occasions might say one thing, but the program might be the opposite, and there's a problem, right? There's a problem in that scenario. Half the time he'd pretend to be populist, and then, it turns out billionaires don't like populism, so then he would swing to be more libertarian, right? Like, this is the problem with billionaires.
Lolbertarian.
They get veto power. An interesting fact about Brylan is that his dad.
Meanwhile,
get
we
this,
still have the same views as always
anti-government
because we
conservatism, right?
have
his dad owns
positions.
low-income housing
We have
in Alabama
integrity.
and gets paid for, and that gets paid for
Exactly.
by the federal government. So they end
We
up
believe what we
basically
say.
funding his lavish lifestyle and their wealth.
Yep.
In response to Donahue's criticism, Holly Hand told the Daily Mail, "In my 2 years at the RNC helping get Trump back in the Oval Office, our team helped our party dominate on TikTok, oh please, bring GOP candidates to college campuses, stream our debates so Gen Z had a front row seat to democracy in action, and modernize the grand old party." Oh please, dude, you were nothing. I'm proud that Gen Z was able to help get Trump back in the Oval Office and deliver
thank you,
Republicans a
Gen
majority
Z,
in
man. I
Congress.
really appreciate
Meanwhile,
that.
Holly Hand found himself going viral
Stupid
over the
fucks.
weekend, but not for the right
Yeah,
reasons.
now
This
it-
is the video. This is the private
Yeah,
chat thing.
and that
we're
is
talking
why
about.
that's
Stay
why
in
a whole
line,
bunch
guys,
of you
if you're
need
there,
to be
stay in
killed.
line, bro. Samuel Gonzalez, 22,
Those
president of
Gen
Turning
Z
Point
men need to
at
get
Mississippi
laid.
State and a senior at the college where Holly Hand has planned a tour stop on October 20th.
Yeah, but a
told
lot
the
of
Daily
them
Mail
have been
he was approached by one of
propagandized by
TPUSA's
the
field representatives who
right-wing
oversees several
drifters and
chapters in an
dipshits
assigned
into being
geographic region and encouraged to
unfuckable.
work with Holly Hand.
You really do need
Quote,
to
we
get
understand
laid.
that Holly Hand is a partner, partnering with the National Turning Point
But they
USA
never will.
headquarters to be a speaker.
When you're too-
Holly
when
Hand,
you're
though,
so
does have
old,
his
you
MAGA
can make
defenders,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
including former
Bridge
Trump lawyer
references.
Jenna Ellis, anyway, so you got some people defending him. I mean, this is what they are, right? Like, they're a bunch of fucking jackals and hyenas and demons on the right who are just like, they're just chomping at the bit to get theirs. I need to get mine. It's not about the mission.
I'm
It's
sure
not about the
Clive
ideology.
would
like, he just
could,
wants to be
could
fucking
potentially
famous.
find a way
He
to
wants to be
get
famous.
to pay
And he
for
decided,
it.
hey,
At
the way to
least.
get famous and make a lot of money is to parrot
I mean, he's probably a
It
multi-trillionaire.
just so happens that he's too entitled.
So
and he's too
and
tasteless
too
to come in front of
many
the cameras
billions.
fucking an hour after
And
Charlie
we'll
Kirk
throw
was
all
killed.
that in the trash
People
to
see
beat
right through you
Yugi.
for what you are. And I gotta say, I'm kind of happy that
Yep.
most of MAGA is like,
Go
hey,
back
man,
in time and duel the
fuck
Pharaoh.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and
As preset though. So yeah, guys, we gotta say about that. Temu Charlie Kirk trying to profit off of Charlie Kirk's death to try and take over. Sorry, pal, but that's not gonna happen. And also, it's pretty sad.
That'll never, ever happen.
And it's very sad and pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
The fact they make us have to feel somewhat sympathetic to Kirk now, that's also pretty sad.
Yeah.
Alright, so now, on to the next topic.
And that is, for the third time in a few years, Jordan died.
Oh, it's a third time? I thought it was only once.
No, this is the third time he's nearly died.
Oh, geez. So what happened this time?
I'll give you the history on that. Okay, so he had to treat his drug addiction. They first moved him to Russia.
Yep, I remember
where
that.
Where he caught COVID and almost died. Then he went, I think, to Serbia for something else. That didn't go well, and he nearly died again. And now this time, the video will tell you, he's had something, he's something similar again, and he's now nearly died a third time.
Man, you really need to lay off the drugs, like Hyba said before.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see how pathetic this is. Like, come on, man. Drugs are bad, okay? Listen to Mr. Mackey, okay?
So Jordan Peterson's daughter came out here and gave an update on his health and what's going on with him. And this is kind of shocking because she basically says, like, yeah, he's barely alive. You know, he's hanging on by a thread. So really, really crazy stuff here. Let's watch some of it.
Hey guys, I have an update on my dad. I'm actually just going to read this. It's on my teleprompter because this is too hard to explain off the cuff, so I wrote it out. This summer's been exceedingly difficult. Dad was in an ICU suffering from pneumonia and sepsis after dealing with a host of neurological issues this summer that we believe stem from CIRS, which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome due to decades of mold exposure. We don't have a better explanation for his neurological symptoms at the moment, other than spiritual attacks. We don't have a better explanation.
Benzos, I think it is, or something like that.
This medical stuff is too much for my tiny brain, like Brave Dubin.
Yep, benzos.
Other than spiritual
It's
attacks.
Central nervous system depressant drugs.
Yeah.
So he's a drug addict still.
It's to treat things like anxiety disorders, insomnia, and seizures.
So remember, guys, how he's been like very sickly for a long time? He said he had a benzo addiction, and he went to, I think it was Russia, and had like put in a medically induced
I'm pretty sure
coma
we
to
covered the
withdraw
first time
while
this
he was
happened,
in the
too.
coma.
Yep.
And,
Or was it the second time?
They don't do that.
I know I
procedure
covered one of them. I
everywhere because it's,
generally
like,
thought it was
not
only
really
one
all that
time
safe,
before
but he
this.
went there and did
No,
it.
the second time.
And he always remember he had this weird health stuff.
I think that one. It sounds like that one was when
didn't sleep for
the
25
drug
days.
addiction almost killed him, and then
So
he
he's
went
always
to
had these weird
Serbia.
health things. Well, now, according to his daughter, he has some
continued
like
treatment,
chronic mold
caught
exposure
COVID, and almost
reaction where
died.
His body's like permanently inflamed, and it was
He
giving
like
him all
almost
the,
died
giving him
twice in
hell and-
like less than a
But
year.
it's about to get worse. Wait. Now, by the way, I'm not even going to touch on the spiritual thing yet. We'll talk about that after it. But listen to what else is going on here.
Which is chronic inflammatory response syndrome due to decades of mold exposure. We don't have a better explanation for his neurological symptoms at the moment, other than spiritual attacks. He's been suffering for the last number of years with unexplainable neuropathy and weakness, amongst other symptoms, but they worsened this summer after he cleaned out his parents' basement after his dad, my grandpa, passed away. We weren't able to communicate with Dad really all of September. During the end of the pneumonia, he was diagnosed with critical illness polyneuropathy, which we're hoping is critical illness myopathy, which is bad enough. That's been heartbreaking and brutal on top of everything else. But after almost a month in the ICU, he's been moved out to a less urgent floor.
He was in the ICU for a month? Yeah, guys, I think you need to understand that means like he was nearly dead. If you're in the ICU for a month, you weren't stabilized for a month? Like, what was he, in a fucking coma? What the fuck?
Sounds like
Jesus Christ. And they just moved him out of the ICU? This story is very bizarre.
We're still in the midst of this, but now we're seeing improvements daily. The timeline for his full recovery is hard to tell at the moment, and I'll update everyone when we have more information. My family's asking for prayers. Like I said, this summer's been exceedingly difficult and terrifying. Dad's condition is complicated by the fact he can't take most medications without suffering from severe paradoxical reactions, which limits treatment options.
He can't take certain medications. Like, what? Does she mean that, he won't take any benzos because he was addicted to benzos? Is that the idea? Or is it, like, literal other medications that are not even psychoactive he won't take? That's sort of a weird thing. You're really limiting how much they can help you if you have like a whole list of medications that you can't take for whatever reasons. But I don't know, maybe it is the case that his body just rejects a lot of them because he's always had these weird health things.
Most medications without suffering from severe paradoxical reactions, which limits treatment options. Like I mentioned, I believe there's a spiritual element at play here. I think a lot of people have felt it in the last few weeks and months.
Off.
It's been hitting my dad and my family hard this summer.
She's saying that the devil is attacking...
That's silly.
The day Dad was brought to the hospital by ambulance, my newborn Audrey was also brought to a hospital by ambulance within hours of each other. It was unbelievable. This was the second time this summer we had brought Audrey to the hospital after she almost died from near heart failure at 6 weeks old. That is exceedingly rare, and they couldn't find a cause for. She was diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary hypertension, which seems to have resolved, praise God. But it's not something that happens. This was late July after Dad and I recorded some episodes of the call-in show together. Everything went just really downhill fast after that. Every single day this summer and now fall has been like watching a movie. Our family's relying heavily on the Lord through this and seeing miracles around us. We are. And I'm also aware that God uses everything for good. So eventually we'll see why this is happening or what comes of it. But Mom and I in particular really wanted to reach out and ask for prayers to help everyone get through this.
I'm sorry, man, but the weird super religiosity over this is very strange. What are you talking about? You think it's a spiritual thing? No. Oh my God. And this is brought up casually, like, well, yeah, we think there's a spiritual element, like we think it might be demons or some shit, and so we need prayers to save us. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I don't think that has anything to do with it whatsoever.
Especially for my dad and for my mom, but also for the nurses and doctors taking care of him, my brother, and family and friends who have come to support us. I miss my dad. My brother misses his dad. My mom misses her best friend and husband.
Amazing.
And it is, yeah, what the fuck?
Oh, there we go. Put it back up.
Oh, man.
I did not expect to see this, man. This is crazy. Glenn Beck says, praying for the protection of the Lord on all of your family, including your dad. This person tweets, long COVID with the meme of Drake, demons. They're saying, no, it's definitely not long COVID. Demons, that's what it is. Life comes at you. 680,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered since this tweet. Karma is an absolute female dog. Maybe he publicly apologized and asked for forgiveness from the Palestinian people. Maybe their forgiveness might ease his pain and suffering. And they're linking to the tweet where Jordan Peterson said, give him hell, Netanyahu, enough is enough. Yeah, well, he sure did give him hell. So some people are saying, oh, this is like karma for him supporting the genocide of Palestinians. Tell him off camera that he doesn't have to support child killing and he doesn't have to fear financial sanctions. He can redeem himself in front of God by apologizing to him for supporting Satanists and child killers. Prayers, of course, particularly touched by including your healthcare team in your prayer requests. We don't get that a lot, blah, blah, blah. A spiritual element. You don't say. Maybe he's suffering with a crisis of conscience. Maybe he needs a soul transplant. Maybe his Zionist friends. There's a lot of talk under here about Israel. A lot of making fun of the demons thing and spiritual thing. But one of the things, for pity's sake, it's long COVID. Yeah, this is one of the things that I noticed is that, like, a lot of people are going, hey, idiot, it's fucking long COVID that he's dealing with, and none of you guys will acknowledge it because none of you guys think it's fucking real. None of you think it's real, but that's what it is. So what are the...
Yeah. But it's also because they think that he's being attacked by Satan.
It could be that he got back on the benzos and wasn't public about it, and so now he's dealing with like another benzo thing going on now. That's certainly possible. It's possible that, remember, he was on that all meat diet for what, years now? 3-4 years, maybe longer than that, and just eating nothing but steak all the time for years on end. That's not healthy. That's not healthy.
Absolute moron.
So, you know, could that have something to do with it? I don't know, maybe. So it could be benzo withdrawal. It could be long COVID. It could have something to do with the diet stuff. It could have something to do with what they're talking about, this SIRS thing. The, you know, reaction to mold or whatever. It could be like some severe autoimmune issue. There's a lot of things it could be, but I don't know. It just seems like it's just weird, right? Because he's not that old. He's not that old to be dealing with something like this, where it's like a life and death issue, and he's chronically hospitalized. But I don't know. I would have liked to got more information from her, because I got to be honest, it sounds like he's, you know, barely conscious, right?
He's
it sounds
only
like
63. He's only a couple of years older than my dad.
Certainly, at least he wasn't for like a month or so. Like he was in a coma or something. But that's wild, man. That is wild. I would hope that they're lean a little bit less on the prayer stuff and the spiritual stuff, and get yourself a fucking like actual super expert on this and listen to whatever the fuck that doctor says. Because in situations like this, that this like hyper religiosity and believing it's spiritual, like that could lead you to make very, very bad medical decisions. And in fact, that may have already happened in this case, where they're making it seem like, oh, he had to reject a bunch of medications because, you know, he reacts badly to them. It's like, does he? Or do you think he does because you have all these weird and false beliefs, like the fact that this is demons and among other things, right? So, I don't know, man, but honestly, my takeaway from this is it looks like Jordan Peterson is barely alive. Barely alive. And all we have in terms of specifics are the stuff his daughter's telling us, but I don't know, there might be a whole bunch of this that we don't know. There might be elements of this that we don't know, and it would be nice to figure it out, but this is a really, really horrible story, for sure. Really, really horrible story. But it's not demons, dude, and there's no spiritual element. He's actually really sick with something, and you should probably go to the top doctors to try to figure it out. And you should probably also allow for the possibility that it's something that you didn't think was real, like long COVID. All right, guys.
Yep, exactly.
That's the show.
So yeah, what do you guys see about that? What happened to freaking his?
As I said,
Peterson,
third time he's died, and he's fucking done this to himself yet again because of all the conspiracies he believes in.
Yeah, you need to listen to medical experts. When they tell you something, you need to just listen. Like years ago when they tell you to take the fucking COVID vaccine, you just do it. It's not a big deal. But good luck, Peterson, recovering and all that, because we're not vicious assholes like conservatives are. All right, so now on to the next topic.
Expose that all young Republicans are Nazi terrorists.
So yeah, this actually happened, I think, yesterday. There was a chat log from group of young Republicans that are involved with Trump too. So like these are like a group that's in power and such, and their DMs, and oh boy, they spewed a lot of racist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, anti-Semitic stuff. And it's pretty disgusting. But of course, conservatives will fervently defend it at all costs, like they've done on Ask Conservatives Reddit. So yeah, let's see how bad this is, because I haven't gotten to watch it yet.
Ask Nazi terrorists.
This shell story came out in Politico, where there's this young Republican group chat where the contents of it was leaked to Politico. And man, is it fucking ugly, bro. It is as ugly can be. So let's walk through it. Right off the bat, quote, "I love Hitler. Leaked messages expose young Republicans' racist chat. Thousands of private messages reveal young GOP leaders joking about gas chambers, slavery, and rape." Goddamn. Now, by the way, they say it's a young Republicans chat. Bro, there are people in this chat who are up to the age of 40. Young by ballsack. This is not fucking young. Right? This is young and middle-aged.
Doesn't matter, though.
I'm 37. I ain't fucking young.
Oh, it's young for Republicans, considering that their average age is like 80.
And it doesn't matter how old you are. These are still reprehensible things to say.
Age. It's not a youthful mistake.
You should be condemned for.
Oops, I said I want to shove them in gas chambers. My bad. Like, what are we talking about? Oh my god.
And the thing is that most of these guys are too young to be on the Epstein list.
votes no is going
I'm
to
sure
the
there
gas
will be
chamber.
a new Epstein among them.
Like, what are we talking about? Oh my god. So here, let's read some of them. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. This is somebody who's running for some, I guess, school position and saying if anybody who votes against me is going to the gas chambers. When do we bring that
Nazi.
side out? You're giving nationals too much credit and
How
expecting...
about we stick you in a gas chamber?
when do we bring that side out? You're giving nationals too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest.
Anti-Semitic, bruh.
And yep, anti-Semite right there. Yep,
That's-
no surprise.
That's the new common thing. Now they're saying the Jew, of course.
Great. I love Hitler.
yeah, they've just ripped they've completely ripped the mask off now.
Yep, that's how it's...
Hello,
that's
we
how-
are Nazi terrorists.
That's how it's been the last few weeks, people. That's all they keep saying now, the
we want
Jew.
to genocide everyone that's not us.
Oh, remember...
And we are going to brag
That
about
actually
being
reminds
Nazi
me.
terrorists who want to kill everyone.
That actually reminds me. Remember dipshit Nick Cruz of Revolutionary Blackout Network?
Yep.
I think I wanted to bring this
Yep.
up as a topic, but I think I forgot about it some time ago. He went on another anti-Semitic rant about Zoran now, and then he's being controlled by the Jew.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Laura, dude.
That's what got me thinking about the Jew, because ever since I saw it, now I see it being used everywhere, the Jew.
Are you going to
My
do
God,
whatever
what
it
is
takes?
wrong with
If
you
we ever had a leak of this
anti-Semites?
chat, we would be cooked
JDS,
for real.
Jew derangement
When do we start
syndrome.
bullying, dude? Kick the bitch. Boom, they're dead. It was rape. He also hates Jews. They love the watermelon people. When they say watermelon people, they mean black people. Also, we are officially under consideration for a Trump endorsement.
Racist
I'm ready to watch
stereotyping.
people burn.
Of course, more Jew reference.
Of course.
Gas chamber. Man,
Because
these people must...
they've got Jew on the brain, remember?
Oh, that's another
The
reference to
take
Jews
up,
I
like,
see.
all the place in their brain.
Man, they sure would love to visit Auschwitz.
Now, I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play
They got
ball.
in like, if they tried to get in like 20 years ago, they would have been shot in the head.
I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to see monkey play ball. Ugh.
Really a discussion about the
Fucking
NBA
hell.
that, by the way.
Very
and everyone that
racist.
endorsed
Like, it's like
and
not
vote-
even, it's like not as surprised as case, but like the fact they've completely torn the mask off is like about fucking time.
for us is going to the
Fucking
gas
hell.
chamber.
You
Stay in the
people,
closet,
are
F-word.
demons.
Faggot, of course, classic, throwing that out.
Of course.
The F word that means gay person.
Classic,
Yo,
classic homophobic faggots.
oh, this girl is fully R-worded. That's retarded is what that one means. All right, so that's only a little fucking taste, bro. Leaders of young Republican groups throughout the country worried what would happen if their Telegram chat ever got leaked, but they kept typing anyway. They referred to black people as monkeys and the watermelon people and mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked
Yeah,
about
it
raping
ain't
their
funny.
enemies
You're all
and
racist
driving them to
Nazis.
suicide and lauded
You're all Nazi
lauded
terrorists,
Republicans
and you
who
all
they
should be
believed
killed.
supported slavery. That's amazing. Like, you know what this is? I'll tell you what this is. You know how they say, right-wingers would say about left-wingers, like, oh, you guys are just virtue signaling. Trying to be like snobby and like
These
"I'm a
people
good
are virtue
person 'cause
signaling
I
about
want you to
how
have
big
a
of
decent
Nazis
life."
they
You go,
are.
"Ah, virtue signaler. This is what's called vice signaling. So if liberals and leftists and Democrats are viewed as people who want to like make things better, and that's like snobby to actually like care about things and people, they take pride in being bad. They take pride in being the heel, right? This is the Trump effect. Trump is like the guy with no filter who says whatever he wants, the fucking bigot asshole, but he's got some charm that they like about him. And so now it's like a race to the bottom. Who could say the most offensive thing? You've seen a very similar thing also in like comedy, in the comedy world because of the Rogan sphere. At some point, they forgot that like the point of comedy is to make people laugh. They got lost in the sauce and thought, oh no, it's to say the most offensive thing. Like, if I could say the most offensive thing and get a reaction out of you, then I could run around and say, you're a trigger little snowflake bitch, and you're just mad at me because I'm doing incisive, intelligent commentary.
No,
by
you're not.
saying
You're a
things
Nazi.
like doing
You
things
should
like
be
calling
laughed
black
at 'cause
people
you're a
monkeys
loser and
and
a
calling them
beta male.
watermelon people.
Yeah,
Like, this is
I
the
think
point. This is vice
Omega
signaling.
male would be
Richard
the thing
Hanania,
here.
former
Get a job.
far-right guy. He wrote a piece.
They,
and he sort of
they
changed
can't.
a little bit
They're unemployable. They're unfuckable,
You're
except by other boy Nazis.
Wait a minute. Are you saying they're more of a failure than me?
They're total failure.
for the years. He's no longer like
They're
the super
total
far-right guy.
failures.
And
Remember?
he wrote a piece
You're saying they can't roll silverware like me?
They can't do
where
anything.
he called this the based ritual. And the piece came out way before these group chats leaked. And the based ritual is like, when you're with conservatives or with other conservatives, they keep trying to push the envelope, right? So like one person will say one thing, that's like, you know, risque or scandalous or out there a little bit. And then the other conservative, to show, hey, I'm cool, I'm down, I'm with it, they'll say something even more crazy, even more insane, right? Like oh, we should bring
the
back
race to the
segregation.
bottom that all
Segregation is
Republicans
good. And the
engage
other was
in.
like, how about slavery, right?
Because that's what the Republican Party is these days.
That's what
just
this
a
is.
race to the
And
just
so
a
these are
race to the
young,
Earth's
awkward
core.
people who are mad at the world, who are filled with hate, and they think like,
And they'll call the core
the worse
slur.
of a person I am, the more cool I look, right? And you end up with this. So here we go. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used the N-word with an A at the end and the N-word with a U-H at the end, variations of a racial slur, more than a dozen times in the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as epic. Peter Giunta, who at the time was the chair of the same organization, wrote in a message sent in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. Giunta was referring to an upcoming vote on whether he should become the chair of the Young Republican National Federation. Damn, that's for the whole fucking country, y'all. That's for the whole country. The GOP's 15,000-member political organization for Republicans between age 18 and 40. 40.
Should get negative.
Quote, I'm going to create some of the
infinity
greatest
votes.
physiological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers, he continued. Two members of the chat responded. Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chambers, and everyone that endorsed but then votes for us is going to the gas chamber. When do we start bullying, dude? We have a solid 3 people who can probably have them want to jump. If they vote for us, why would they be gassed? When do we bring that side out? I'm going to create some of the greatest physiological torture methods known to man. If they vote for us, why would they be gassed? We only want true believers. Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic. I'm ready to watch people burn now. We got to pretend that we like them. Hey, come on in, take a nice shower and relax. Boom, they're dead.
Again,
can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic.
Course.
Joe Maligno, who previously identified himself as the general counsel for the New York State Young Republicans, wrote back, I'm ready to watch people burn now. Annie K. Caddy, New York's National Committee member, said. The exchange is part of a trove of Telegram chats obtained by Politico and spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, Vermont. This chat offers an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening.
And you're
Since
all
Politico began
disgusted.
making inquiries, one member of the group
They're
chat
all
is no
evil
longer employed
scum
at their
and
job, and
evil
another job offer
subhumans.
was rescinded. Prominent New York Republicans, including Representative Elise Stefanik and State Senate Minority Leader Rob Ort, have denounced the chat, and festering resentments among young Republicans have now turned into public recriminations, including allegations of character assassination and extortion. So one person leaked it, and then, like, there's this one guy online, I think his name is Aiden. I guess he's in the group chat, and he's a Republican, and he's basically like, who's the traitor? We're going to find them, and we're going to destroy them. And, like, then you have all these other
Sure, pal.
young right-wingers who are, like,
and mutilate
going
their
after this
body.
person who leaked it.
We're going to go Yami Marek on them.
But it's weird, right? Because
Chill.
why don't you just fucking own it? Like, that's the thing. Like, we're just telling some jokes, bro.
Hail
There's
that
literal
bear.
words where they say, I love you.
Oh, sorry, that's
Right?
that's
There's
more than
fun-
4
and
letters.
Let's stop kidding ourselves. This is a thing now among the young right. Like, this is a thing. You know, we always talk about Nick Fuentes in a debate with Alex Jones said, I admire Hitler, right? They're young, far right wingers. They feel this way. But then when you catch them feeling this way, then they go, oh, we were just making jokes.
No, you're
Okay,
not.
no, you weren't. Own it. Stop
And
running
they're
away
not
from it like a
funny
little
either
bitch.
way, so ha.
This is the thing that I can't. This is the thing that drives me the
exactly.
most crazy. Is like,
Because you're not
just
genuinely
fucking own
funny
it.
like me.
Just own it. Don't do this bullshit thing
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, I didn't mean it. But
You
also,
try making your managers when they
I do mean
interview
it, but I'm not
you
going to
laugh
tell you.
their
I mean, I'm going
asses
to
off.
say
I'd
I
like to
didn't
see you
mean
try
it,
that,
so I can get
pals.
off the hook from being in trouble. But also, I mean it, and I'm right. It's like, and by the way, one of these people came out and they were like,
great.
"This is
Okay,
doctored,"
so
but also
I'm
I
gonna have to do a
apologize for if
restart
anybody was
after
offended.
this.
Well, why would you apologize if it was fucking doctored? Like, I understand that these people are young. Kind of. You could be 40 or younger. But, like,
You're
you guys
huge.
are like
Relative-
idiots.
well, they
Don't
are
you know,
relative
right?
to the
And now
average
they're doing this fucking
Republican.
witch hunt of the person who leaked it, only further validating that you're fucking horrible
And you have
people.
you have
You're
a
horrible. And
fraction
this
of
is
a
the future of the
percent
party?
of an
Well, the answer
IQ
is yes, it
compared
is
to
the
me.
future of the party. Because this is what Trump has brought us.
And I'm
They're like Billy
has-
from the
what
River
Trump
to
has
Billy
done-
and Mandy. Their IQ is negative.
Imagine being more retarded than me.
is made it so that young people who look up to him, young Republicans, they now think it is cool, it is correct, it is smart, it is helpful to be catty, to be petty, to be vindictive, to want revenge, to be a bad person, to vice signal all the time.
And we need to
all
beat
the
this
old
into
school
their
things
heads
that we
that
were
it's
all
not
taught
cool.
are how to act in the world. Like,
Yep.
hey,
Never.
be honest, have
And if they
integrity,
don't
tell the
agree,
truth,
well,
care
off
about
go
others,
their heads.
Believe in equality as a virtue, right? Like all
And
these
they're
things.
gonna have to work
all
in
those things are now out
Bedrock
the fucking
jail.
window. Be a petty, selfish, narcissistic,
Yep, in the
self-obsessed
nether.
prick.
No
And
pickaxe gonna
crush
break that
anybody and
bedrock.
everybody
Sorry.
who mildly fucking disagrees with you. And this is now we're at the place where the group chats leak. These people are fucking praising Hitler and saying we should rape people, right? And they go, how dare this person leak it? We're going to ruin their lives. Again, only further proving that you guys belong nowhere near polite society. Get the fuck out. You belong nowhere near polite society. Literally nowhere near it. It's absolutely disgusting that there wasn't like
belong
sort of like a wake-up moment
6
here
feet under.
over this shit. To me, this is the bigger thing. So the redheaded libertarian said, hey, everyone, some frat boys said F-word in a group chat. See, no one cares. I said, pretty sure it's the I love Hitler thing, the put them in the gas chambers thing, and the rape is epic thing that is the bigger issue. And so, like, we know these people are fascists. We know they're Nazis. And you can't have a scandal like this
terrorists.
and then everybody, like,
Stupid dumbass
defends the
cunt.
kids and then also say, but you can't call me a fascist, you can't call me a Nazi.
we know they're
you have
retarded.
those beliefs. It really is that simple. I'm not even getting to everything they said. A lot of the, there's other shit they said too, which was absolutely over the top insane, but we're not going to go through the entire article here. But there is one more thing that I wanted to show you because this to me says everything, right? Look at the pictures of the guys who were included in this piece. Like, these are the people who are writing this stuff. Yeah, master race stuff here. So here's one of them. Here's another one.
You all look as ugly and fat
And then
as
there's the one
me.
everybody's really talking about. And I think this was the
I
this was
think
the guy
that's
who
generous.
said some of the most fucked up stuff is this person. I'm not going to lie. No disrespect to trans people whatsoever. I thought this was a trans man. I thought this was a trans man. And I guarantee you this person is deeply anti-trans. I guarantee you they despise trans people. I think they shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, he looks like a trans man. It's not true. Now, also, Elise Stefanik
would
received this
explain a
award from her
lot.
allies involved in this racist text messaging scandal. Elise posed with Bobby Walker, who referred to rape as epic, and Peter Junta, who texted I love Hitler, called NBA games monkey ball, and black people watermelon people. Yeah, that's the other thing. That sort of stuff is like, again, it's
I'm
vice
amazed
signaling.
you didn't
It's the
say
base ritual.
N-word ball.
I'm pretty sure they're jealous they can't play in the NBA.
It's I'm going to be
They're
as bad a
jealous
person
they
as I
can't
can,
play in
and
anything.
that'll signal that I'm cool.
Damn, you
And
can't
that,
even
like, oh,
play in
this
the
is
NFL. You'd be
transgressive.
so bad.
Yeah, I guess it's transgressive, but like in the dumbest way possible. Like, you're not vice signaling as much as you're low IQ signaling. You know what I'm saying?
And that was coming from me.
Well, I guess it actually is both vice signaling and low IQ signaling, because it does show I'm a bad person, but it also shows I'm a fucking stupid person. So, I don't know. I just want these people to own it, right? Like, you believe these things, own it. And let's be clear,
And I
there
want
is
them
no
crushed.
equivalent of, like, in the lefty group chats, there is no, like, oh, low-key, Stalin was based. That doesn't happen. And the right-wing group chats, they're sucking off Hitler. In the left-wing group chats, as I said yesterday, they're talking about how Trump's got a meaty neck-gina. And they're saying, bro, would you put the tip in? Trump's meaty neck-gina? They're saying shit like that, right? Like, edgy humor is fine. Edgy humor is edgy humor. Some people like it, some people don't like it, but I'll always defend it in principle. It's not... I don't really care if there are people out there who don't like it. If it's a joke, and the intent is different. Some of this shit was jokes, that's fine. The stuff that's not jokes
You're
is
all
where it's like,
weirdos.
no, this speaks to what your ideology
Like
is,
Shuckle
what your
Walls
philosophy
pointed
is,
out.
what your feelings are. And your feelings
Exactly.
are one of fucking hate and derision.
Those Shuckle
Your feelings are
Waltz.
one...
Now inflicting 500 million damage to all of them.
stems from the belief of
And you're the
there is a
ultimate
rigid
repellent
hierarchy.
of women.
White men are on the top. We
Yep.
should be on the top. We
Why
should
do you
make all
think
the
they're having
decisions.
gay
Women need to know
orgies
their
in
place and stay the
Narnia?
fucking kitchen.
That makes
Black
all
people
the
need to know their
sense.
place and stay on their fucking side of town and take a lower paying jobs than what we get. Like, this is at the core of it. It's this rigid hierarchy style of thinking. It's this fascist police state type idea. They don't believe in equality. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in equal rights. They don't believe in justice. They don't believe in freedom. And so that is all coming out here, right? So just understand that this is what's at the core of right-wing politics. At the core of right-wing politics is like, LOL, I actually really love Hitler. Look at me, aren't I an edgy boy, but I also kind of mean it. That's what's at the core of right-wing politics. At the core of left-wing politics is like, hey man, I think everybody should have health care, and everybody should have higher wages, and we should have free college, and we should get paid vacation time by law, and we should have a 4-day work week, and we should have universal basic income, and we should make everybody's life better, and we should give people more freedom, and we should treat people equally. Like, the difference could not be more stark. The difference could not be more stark and directly in your face. Hey y'all, do me a favor and
So
like and
yeah,
subscribe.
guys, what do you guys say about that? Stupid dip.
Not surprising. Not surprising.
And like we told you all for decades now, this is what Republicans deep down think. And
Yep.
more proof of it. And yeah, every one of these guys if we're in an honest, just country, they would all be banned from everywhere, and they deserve to be laughed at because what they said
They'd
is
be banned
stupid
from
as fuck.
existence if you weren't living in a shithole.
Yep. So yeah, fuck all of you who believe this crap. How about that? Go to Russia and China if you want to be Nazis. How about that one? Speaking of which, our next topic.
Give me a second. That'll be Hamas-Israeli war paused for the next 24 hours.
So, of course, this happened some time ago. The Hamas-Israeli war is now at an official ceasefire for now. Of course, I don't trust either side, so don't expect anything to happen, and that's why Trump gets no credit, because we don't trust him, and we definitely don't trust Nazi Yahoo. So don't expect this to last for long and all that. But, of course, let's still talk about it. I haven't heard anything about the peace plan or whatever, because I've been, too busy working, unlike conservatives. So let's have Base Dylan Burns cover it. So here we go.
Yes.
Hey everybody.
Go Dylan!
This is a recording that I'm taking from the Donetsk region. I am here filming on the Konstantinivka axis.
And that's a real man for you dipshit conservatives on the front lines of Ukraine, unlike you pussies.
About 20 minutes, actually.
Yep.
Because you all want the
I'm
Russian
trying to
Nazi
report
state to
something
win because
quick
you're
There was a
fools.
big announcement while I was asleep.
Because they want to be Nazi
Donetsk
terrorists.
Donetsk
They want to
border with an
rebuild
artillery
the Soviet
team attached
Union
to
with the
Spartan.
politics of the
If anybody wants
Russian
to Google
Empire.
them, Spartan, if I gotta say it English like. But I wanted to take a pause from the war that I'm seeing right now on the ground to talk about a different war in Gaza before I head out. It seems that a ceasefire has been agreed to. This is fantastic news. It should mean an immediate end to the firing, an immediate end to the bloodshed if everything goes to plan, as was put forward by Trump's and his administrations, because, I don't think he was the one there writing out each point, but the people around him. The 20-point peace plan, if it is followed to a T, then there's a few things that should happen in the coming hours and days. And I'll go through this quickly so you guys have the time frame before I give my opinion on likelihood of success, likelihood of failure, whether it's a good deal, it's a bad deal. As outlined by Trump last week, key elements of the deal call for Hamas to disarm and give up a future role in governing Gaza, the small seaside territory devastated by the fighting. However, Hamas has not stated it will do this. This is important. The ceasefire agreement is not a favor from anyone, but rather the fruit of the legendary steadfastness of our people. This is from one of Hamas's leaders. Gaza, the graveyard of invaders, was victorious through its steadfastness and unity, imposing its will on the arrogant enemy. And Smotrich, he came out, he's one of the more far-right members of Netanyahu's government, saying that is a statement, by the way, one of the more far-right members of Netanyahu's government. He wrote that he's against the deal. He's going to lobby against it because he doesn't like the giving up of Palestinian political prisoners, which in exchange for the over 10 living hostages and a bunch of bodies from those who were killed in captivity, they're getting about 2,000 political prisoners, those who were arrested and there was no reason ever given, including those who are accused of murder. So it's quite a large net that's being thrown out on the Palestinian political prisoner side, on the Palestinian, actual crime side when you talk about the murderers, or people who have been arrested and at this point have yet to be formally charged. So this right here is something that I am worried about. Not that, Smotrich is going to be the one that sinks it, but that there are still elements amongst Hamas and there's still elements amongst the Israeli government, despite the fact that only 8% of the Israeli public oppose this deal, who are not 100% on board. So before we talk about any of the details of the success, that there are people who would like to, on both sides, see this fail. Hamas, members of Hamas
Trump,
who don't want to see the organization give up.
What's it
political
cry?
power. They don't want
All
to see
the
the
Nazis want
government
every
give
single
up arms,
Palestinian
especially
murdered.
before there's a concrete pathway
Across the
to a
world
Palestinian
killed.
state,
They
which
want
this agreement does not outline
they want a
how the
global
Israeli side,
Nakba because they're
Smotrich and
demons.
others don't like the giving up of Palestinian prisoners, especially those who the Israeli government has accused of murder, who has accused of engaging in acts of terrorism. The way he said is that giving these people up, actually I have the full quote here, great fear of the consequences of emptying prisons and releasing the next generation of terror leadership, which will do everything to continue spilling rivers of Jewish blood. God forbid. For this reason alone, we cannot join the short-sighted celebrations and vote in favor of the deal. Now, mind you, the Israeli government has already approved the ceasefire resolution, so Smotrich is in the minority. And the same thing is true amongst the Israeli population and the Palestinian population who want to see this deal succeed. But the idea that people are talking about this as, okay, we've gotten to peace, fantastic. Or, the peace that lasts 1,000 years or whatever. We're jumping ahead of the gun, okay? We're jumping the gun a bit. In the Congo, we had the Trump administration announce, peace in our times before the ADF burnt down Christian villages and M23 continued scuffling with pro-Congolese government militias. We heard him declare that there was peace in our times when it comes to Azerbaijan and Armenia before the Azerbaijani government said, well, we're actually not we're agreeing to it in person, but we're not officially agreeing to it because the Armenians have yet to change their constitution. So we have a record of Donald Trump coming out and basically saying mission accomplished before the mission is accomplished, with very little backlash due to, I would just say, the international knowledge of these conflicts. Most Americans are much more worried about Medicaid cuts or the ACA tax credit expansion or the price of groceries, any of these, before they're worried about M23 Congolese rebels or what's going on exactly in the Congo. So there are still a lot of steps that have to be taken before we get anywhere near peace. This is the first significant step towards peace, of course, the ceasefire agreement, but there's still a lot of steps to be taken, and that means that we can't really let our pedal off the metal here. We can't really take a step back. We can't really relax. So, what exactly is the
infinite
schedule?
pressure
Here's
on
how it's supposed to go. On Thursday night or Friday, and so far, we have yet to see the Israelis formally bring them back, actually start the process of removing Israeli soldiers yet. It's unclear if that has started, according to CNN and others. But on Thursday night or Friday, as a ceasefire goes into effect, within 24 hours of the Israeli cabinet's approval. So that means within the next 24 hours, a ceasefire has to stop. I mean, it has to start. They have to stop firing, right? And after that 24-hour period, Hamas then has 72 hours to free 20 hostages that are still alive. I said 10. I said over 10, but it's 20. President Trump says this could happen on Monday or Tuesday, meaning that throughout the weekend, they would recover the hostages, take them from strategic locations above ground across the Strip, which is what the Gaza administration, Hamas, said they were doing in order to deter further Israeli aggression, because they knew how many Israelis want to see those hostages get home. Now, after those are released, as the hostages are being released, Israel will begin freeing some 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Again, people without charges, people who are charged with murder, all sorts of people. A further 28 hostages who are presumed dead will have their bodies recovered and returned to the families of Israelis who had lost their loved ones. Now, this, according to Hamas, may take some time because a lot of these people have died due to bombing. So they're going to be buried under rubble. And like the people talk about how the 67,000 casualty number, death number for the Palestinians might be low because a lot of these bodies are buried under rubble. The same thing is true about the Israeli hostages, with many of them also being buried under rubble. This is expected to take more time. And by Monday, as these 2,000 political prisoners, murderer prisoners, just people without, accusation, blah, 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 all these different people, it's 2,000 people. I haven't gone through the list completely, so I can't, there's a lot of people. I haven't seen the list. But when all these people are released, we're going to start seeing hundreds of trucks of humanitarian aid on Monday, by Monday, as these people are starting to be released, are expected to be allowed to enter Gaza. Tom Fletcher, the UN humanitarian chief, he told reporters that officials have 170,000 metric tons of medicine, aid, and other supplies that are ready for Gaza once they're given the green light. And I also want to be clear that a lot of this aid has been waiting outside Gaza to get into the Strip for a very long time now, but they have been denied entry for months and months and months and months. There have been aid, food aid, on the border, basically rotting as they've waited for the moment where they would be given the go-ahead to bring these supplies inside. So that's the timeline as we see it until we start streaming next week and we see the continuation of it. At that point, we're supposed to be seeing the Israeli military start pulling back And through each phase, this is phase 1, then we'll go into phase 2, they'll pull back further and further and further until they're in a buffer zone that's within Gazan territory along the border between Israel and the Gaza Strip. And they will remain there until the PA, the Palestinian Authority, headed by Mahmoud Abbas, takes over the Gaza Strip from Hamas, because this deal was very clear that Hamas will give up political authority, Hamas will give up their arms, and Hamas will give up any future in any participation in a future Palestinian election, because they've been basically banished by this deal from Palestinian political life.
Which needs to happen.
Now, does this apply to other organizations that engage in violence against Israel, like Palestinian Islamic Jihad, stuff like that? I assume so. I believe I even read somewhere that, Hamas is, of course, the one getting attention, but if you replace Hamas with Palestinian Islamic Jihad, you haven't really gone anywhere. If anything, you might even say you've gone to a group that's even considered by those on the ground to be more extreme, which is saying something, to be more extreme than Hamas. But the general idea is that whatever future Palestinian political project that there is, and this agreement does not say that they will get a state. This agreement just acknowledges that Palestinians want a state, and that the agreement supports the idea of a pathway to a viable two-state solution where the Palestinians get a state. So it's not a concrete
and
plan.
Israel and the world needs to help develop Gaza and the West Bank
they get a state
up to Western standards
they get a state.
immediately.
At no point in this plan do they get a
state.
It's just an
you can't have them destroyed the way they are and expect everything to be hunky-dory. It needs to be instantly rebuilt.
Exactly.
And likewise get out of the West Bank and Western Syria.
The final phase of the withdrawal.
Yep, get out of Syria, get out of the West Bank,
the PA, the
get out of,
takes over the
and
Gaza
allow
Strip.
the lands between the
There's a lot of
and allow
potential
some
problems
land
with the
between
Palestinian
Gaza
Authority taking
and
over
the
Gaza
West
Strip.
Bank
Right now,
be
Hamas is
restored
the most
to
popular
go back to
force in Gaza
go back
Strip,
to the
but neither was the Palestinian
Palestinians
Authority or Mahmoud Abbas. Mahmoud Abbas is
and abandon all plans for Israel Ultima.
Has sometimes been viewed
kick out
as
all the
a
settlers in the
cooperator
West
with
Bank.
the Israeli authorities, and that has gotten
Kick
them
them out,
some-
round them up, and
some
massacre
ire
them.
from certain Palestinians in the
Dump
strip.
them in an unmarked
They have basically
grave.
been pushed out in the strip for more than
They,
a
along with
decade,
Turkey, like I said,
by
get out of
Hamas,
Syria.
and so they don't really have.
Yep, get out of
ties
Syria,
and
Neo-Ottoman
roots and ground
Empire.
there. And so them
And Nazi
coming
Israel.
back to rule the strip
Yep.
will have to be backed up by something. Whether that's going to be locals on the ground who see this as the only pathway forward and therefore, join some security force to support the government, or it's going to have to do with the international coalition that the agreement talks about, as well as the United Nations, to make sure that the situation is stable as authorities try to reestablish electricity, try to reestablish medical care, try to reestablish clean water.
Or
As all of
establish
these systems
fucking
have been destroyed. The vast majority of
existence.
the Gaza Strip now is rubble. It is dust. It has been annihilated. It's just most of it is gone. If you look at aerial photographs from the ports in Gaza, from like drone footage, just going over the ruins of what was once a bustling community, there's nothing left. And this isn't something that's going to take weeks. This is not something that's going to take months. This is something that's going to take years to rebuild water infrastructure, to rebuild all of the electrical infrastructure so people can actually start going back to the homes and living there that they once did. Because right now, most of the Palestinians live in the south of the Gaza Strip and basically a giant tent city. And that is not the future that Palestinians want for themselves. If that is where they're stuck, then the only pathway forward would be radicalization, especially if they're not being allowed to leave the Gaza Strip, as was the case during the war. That will probably change in the months to come. But they need a pathway towards civilization. That's really the only thing you can call it, towards some form of civilization. And my hope is that this will succeed, but there's a lot of sticking points which it might fail. Number one, if there is some sort of clash on the ground after the ceasefire between the Palestinians and the Israelis.
And if there's any clash on the ground Israel will use nuclear weapons to end
from
it.
those within Hamas and with those in the Israeli cabinet, trying to find a way to reignite fighting. Even though the vast majority of both populations don't want that to happen, both governments are still jostling in some way to both signal victory to their base, as we saw with the Hamas statement, despite the conundrum that they find themselves in, and from how the Israeli government is speaking. So I'm worried about potential provocation. There's also, of course, concerns about what happens once we get to the end of this, and then there's still no concrete pathway towards a Palestinian state. and there's only just kind of like tacit acknowledgments that people want that, and those within Hamas who, you know, are going to be granted amnesty are thinking, well, you know, I still want that. That's still a goal I desire. That's still a goal I want to advocate for. Those outside of Hamas, both those who don't have ties to militant groups and members of other militant groups. Will violence resume if we don't deal with the root causes of this conflict? Probably. I mean, I know that the violence was so overbearing, so horrific, so destructive. But, you know, time heals wounds, and that's not to say that, you know, losing 150 members of your extended family is something you forget.
Million. It'll probably take a
time, and in 50, 60 years, when it's your kids being told these stories, and it builds hatred in their chest, and there's still been no solution to the problems that made people think that this was the only option in the first place, that pushed people to join organizations like Hamas, that pushed people to become radicals, or to think that violence was the only way out of the situation, as all people, of course, have the right to violent resistance if they're not getting the political, you know, the political foundations that all people deserve. Of course, terrorism is not the right of all people, but the right of resistance, if you're being denied, you know, representation, if you're being denied proper governance, of course, is the right of all peoples. And so it wouldn't surprise me if we don't deal with the root causes, even if this doesn't derail, that we're just going to be right back here given 20, 30 years. And next time we're going to hear people saying, oh my gosh, we should have done
next time Israel will be using nuclear weapons, not just
the next
conventional.
If he's not around anymore. Or you're going to hear from maybe some radicals saying like, well, if we just would have fought a few more months, we could have broken the will of the, this is almost
if we had just used, you know what they would be saying? They'd be saying if we had just used a nuclear weapon on Gaza at the start, we wouldn't be back here.
Even if it's just for PR purposes, that doesn't mean people won't believe it, and that the spoken truth, even if it isn't necessarily the real truth, might become the remembered truth by those who come afterwards. The spoken truth, the declared truth, the ideological truth of the group becomes the internal truth as they fool themselves into believing it. This happens in a lot of authoritarian organizations. Mind you, of course, Hamas has agreed to give up power, but the specifics of these, and this is something that really concerns me, they haven't come out and say, we will give up power, we will lay down arms. They haven't came out and declared that. They've just agreed to the ceasefire, which includes those as terms. So I am worried about the potentiality of Hamas hiding weapons at certain locations while saying they're abiding by the agreement, and then that being pointed to by someone like Smoltrich to reignite violence. There's just so many potential failure points for this, but I don't want to take that away from the fact that this is the closest that we've gotten to the end of the war. This will probably this will see a cessation of violence for at least some time, even if it fails. And
which
this
I expect
will allow
it would.
aid if it lasts till Monday, which is the hope, and I do believe that it will, to see aid come in and start treating people who need medical care, start treating people who need food, start treating people with the basic necessities of life. And so that is something to be celebrated. That is something to support. And I hope that there is nothing but success for this. I don't care if it's Trump deal. I don't care if it's Biden's deal. I don't care if it's Bush's deal. As long as it means less people will suffer, it should get the full support that it deserves. But if it fails, that shouldn't take away the pressure either. That just means going straight back to the drawing board and trying again, because only 8% of the Israeli public oppose this. The vast majority of Palestinians want peace. The desire on the ground is for peace. We just need to put the building blocks in place. And we need to make sure that those building blocks don't just kick the can down the road, because peace today should be peace tomorrow, or it isn't really peace at all.
So yeah, what do you guys say about, for the moment, the Hamas-Israeli war as ceasefire, which I still don't trust it'll last?
Well, it's something, at least.
Yeah. Hopefully it stays that way, though, but I have my doubts. But yeah,
same.
Hopefully it'll stay. So anyways, on to the next topic.
Give me a moment. I'm doing some stuff there. And it is Joe Rogan FAFOs.
Fucked around and found out. So of course,
Joe Bogan.
So now Rogan's starting to cry and moan about voting for Trump, like we all told y'all he sucked ass. And Zoran Mandami looks like he made fun of him too. That's very base and funny and all that. So let's watch. We haven't watched him in a long time. David Dole, and see what his video is on about it.
everybody who has a heart sees that and goes, that can't be right.
So what he's doing is focusing entirely on this agenda of punishment and cruelty.
I gotta say, as somebody who follows news and politics closely, who tries to do my best to inform people about what is going on, it is incredibly annoying, to say the least, that one of the dumbest people on earth is also one of the most influential. Joe Rogan, the man that helped Trump win the election, absolutely had an impact, is now maybe regretting what he did. So I'm gonna get to his clip on
being
how he's
retarded
feeling about these, what ICE is doing, the mass deportations, and how they're just terrorizing people. And it's worth noting, all of this was clear before the election.
Yep,
it's one thing if you don't have a platform, if you weren't paying attention,
Don't act like
if you
no one told you.
don't
We
have the
told you.
biggest podcast on earth and brought
Yep,
Donald
everyone
Trump on
told
your
you.
podcast to
Fucking
give him a nice
imbecile.
massage. If you're not that person, and you're surprised at what's happening, okay. If you're Joe Rogan, though, and you have a platform, you have an impact on people, and you didn't know this was coming, you're a dumbass. So I'll get to the Rogan clip, but all of this was very clear. This was during the RNC last year. Trump is putting mass deportations at the heart of his campaign. They literally handed out signs, mass deportation now. Republicans cheer for mass deportation.
Deport,
a dark new chapter in
deport
America's history
literally
of othering
everybody.
them. That's again, article from the RNC a year ago. This is posted by the MAGA War Room. This is a Republican-aligned group that shared this clip of Donald Trump.
That is why, as soon as I take the oath of office, we will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of our country, even larger than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Shortly after that,
just to
Joe
quickly
Rogan
warn you, we're
had
having
this
problems
monster
with
on his podcast
YouTube.
to give him
YouTube's
the
having
easiest
problems at the
interview.
moment, a lot in Australia.
What happened?
It's gone down, and the video for me is getting in and out more than usual. So just be aware of that.
Of his life.
Yeah.
Also, went on to give him a big hug after he won the election at UFC 309 on November 16th. A few months later, when Trump took over and ICE began what they are doing, this is a report from June. 65% of people taken by ICE had no convictions, 93% no violent convictions. More data here. ICE is deporting thousands with minor offenses from traffic violations to weed possession. People with no criminal convictions at all make up 2/3 of the more than 120,000 people deported between January and May. For another 8%, the only offense on their record was illegal entry to the U.S. Only about 12% were convicted of a crime that was either violent or potentially violent. The numbers contradict officials' continued claims that immigration enforcement is focusing on the worst of the worst criminal offenders. And all of this was warned about before the election. If you did any reading at all of the scrutiny of Donald Trump's campaign, Project 2025, the people around Donald Trump, like Stephen Miller, absolute monsters, you would have been aware of this. When you have a platform, you have a responsibility to the people, to your audience, the people that may come across your video. You have a responsibility to tell them the reality as you see it, which is why I show you my sources. I link to my sources below the video under sources on YouTube. And then I discuss my thoughts, which may differ from your thoughts, but I show you why I reach the conclusions I reach based on what I see. Rogan is 100 millionaire. He has a hell of a lot more freedom, a hell of a lot more time, a hell of a lot more resources than I do. And didn't do the bare minimum when it came to
because he's an
discussing
imbecile.
the election.
A self-admitted moron.
And now
Yep, he's
we're supposed to what?
He's fucking
Feel bad
retarded.
that he was fooled? Feel good that he is maybe being aware of the mistake he made? No, this is an absolute dumbass that does not even... Dumbass is being too kind. He does not care about how his platform impacts real people's lives.
Yeah, he doesn't care because
Immigrants
he's
with no
evil.
criminal record, now the largest group in ICE detention. So they show the numbers here. Like it's wild. And you could do any search. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories about ICE terrorizing people. There was the recent one from last week, the big one about the raid on a Chicago apartment building. ICE putting kids in handcuffs, raiding this apartment building overnight, just terrorizing these people, these innocent people. Another example, Debbie Brockman, this is a recent example, is a journalist for WGN, Chicago's most iconic television station. Here she is being wrestled to the ground, handcuffed and detained by masked ICE agents in broad daylight. ICE ran into her vehicle, dragged her out. Her whereabouts is unknown. Another recent one, this from 2 days ago. Video shows ICE agents shooting protesting pastor with pepper ball from a rooftop. And they apparently laughed after they did it. And they came out later to defend themselves. ICE released a statement after an agent aimed a pepper ball at a priest's head after he prayed and laughed when he was hit. Quote, "If you are obstructing law enforcement, you can expect to be met with force." They were on a rooftop. ICE was on a rooftop. These were just protesters. This is a pastor. Obstructing law enforcement?
Now get you murdered.
Adam Johnson writing here. Not sure people not subject to this in their cities truly comprehend how much ICE is terrorizing Chicago. They are everywhere, kidnapping whomever they want, arresting journalists, targeting construction and domestic laborers, deliberately sowing fear in almost every neighborhood. Here is the dumbass himself.
Let's just talk about the immigration thing. The way it looks is horrific. When you're just arresting people in front of their kids and just normal, regular people that have been here for 20 years, that everybody who has a heart can't get along with that.
No.
Everybody who has a heart sees that and goes, that
well,
can't
you don't
be
have
right.
a heart, Toe.
That can't be right. That can't be the only way
So
to do this.
you have to say this because you're going to be killed otherwise.
Look, we have to have a border. Yes, it should have been secure. Yes, they should make sure you know who everybody is before they get in.
Yeah.
But when people been here for 20 years, like, come on, man. That's crazy. Like, let's find a way. If they've been productive members of society for 20 years, no criminal records, they worked the entire time,
deserve
they
it
paid
for doing
taxes.
this. Causing this.
Find them a pathway to citizenship. Find a way where you...
Yeah, Rogan, that's what us on the left wanted. Pathway to citizenship for all these people. You're the one who voted for the idiot that wanted to deport them all and terrorize them. So, whose side you should be on?
You can do this thing that you want to do, which is keep terrorists and cartel members from getting across the border with drugs that kill 100,000 people a year.
You are.
Okay, but also have a fucking heart. Because if you don't, you're not going to get anybody on your side. If you're doing this stuff publicly, throwing women to the ground, handcuffing people,
declare martial law between now and the
existing on the wrong side of the dirt.
Yeah.
Not a criminal. Not the only crime they ever committed was coming over here as a kid.
Yeah.
They probably didn't even know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Just, a lot of kids got snuck across when they were already born in Mexico. And they've grown up their entire life in America. They can't even speak Spanish.
This is someone who is now trying to cover his ass because he knows how unpopular all of this is. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard when you have a platform, when you've made over $100 million for doing a podcast.
He won't because he's retired.
If you're going to discuss
grifter.
news and politics, if you're going to weigh in, if you're going to bring politicians on,
laughs at the thought of murdering 150 million people because he's a demon.
It's hard to know what to say because this is
he
somebody
needs to be banned.
After all of this, I actually do believe this kind of bothers Joe Rogan. I'm someone I used to watch his podcast going back 2013 to
he's too stupid.
He's just realizing that he's probably gonna be that he could be disappeared if he's not careful.
We'll guess, but
honestly,
there's a real person that was in there at some point. we see a moment of it here, but I have such a hard time comprehending how you don't understand how important it is to be informed when you are speaking on these issues before an election.
He doesn't care
to feel no responsibility to that. To not apologize for what you helped bring in.
A terrorist
have some awareness,
organization.
grow from it. To not have any of that. I don't know. Like, just my only hope is people stop listening to garbage like
Well,
this.
he
To be
has
clear,
been
he's the
losing
only one.
views since.
There's a bunch of dumbasses like this that were on the Trump train.
Yeah, but that's
now are
because
trying
he's
to
coming
backpedal
out.
because of what's
That's
actually
because of
happening.
his audience loves the cruelty and the Nazism. That's the point. They love it.
We can only hope he collapses.
Clear before the election.
Yeah, and then gets banned and then gets
ridiculous.
Disappeared.
One last clip here. I want to share just
For a little
a
bit.
nice palate cleanser because
There-
after
there
watching
like
this
24 hours where he
it's
truly
important to
understands
be reminded that good people exist in
impacts of
positions
his
of power with
actions.
platforms. Zoran
That's
Mamdani
what he said.
was on MSNBC's Morning Joe and spoke to what the strategy of what Trump is doing.
Donald Trump ran on 3 promises. He ran on the punishment of his political enemies, he ran on easing the cost of living crisis, and he ran on engaging in a program of mass deportation. It's that second promise of the cost of living crisis that brought so many to his campaign, and yet he's unable and unwilling to deliver on that because he's beholden to the very billionaires that are profiting off of that crisis. So what he's doing is focusing entirely on this agenda of punishment and cruelty. And what I would do is to actually stand up for New Yorkers. And what I mean by that is you can see in this race right now, the other candidate that is running for mayor is Andrew Cuomo. He released a statement yesterday speaking about this indictment of Attorney General James. He couldn't even name her. He couldn't even name Donald Trump. And he couldn't do those things because he knows that his narrow path to City Hall is paved by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump back in the White House. And Donald Trump's getting a good return on his investment right now because he's seeing a mayoral candidate, a former governor, unwilling to lift a finger when we see this unprecedented attack, not just on our democracy, but on an attorney general whose only crime is standing up for the people of New York.
All right, so while I think it's important to note that movements, people power is what leads to lasting change, having political leaders like Zoran Mamdani, who, by the way, are from the movements, having political leaders like this who are able to articulate what is going on and have these individuals in positions of power, like Mayor of New York City is a solid position of power in terms of being able to lead a fight, lead a movement to push back against what is happening. It's important to highlight people like this and ensure people like this get into whatever positions of power exist. Because if there is that combination of outside power of movements,
Few more
inside
weeks,
power,
people.
like
Just
Mayor
vote
of New York City,
Zoran
that is what
in,
can ultimately
please.
help what was just a movement.
We need
move it
Zoran
into
Mamdani
something
now.
that actually
At least
leads
you guys
to
in New
lasting
York
change.
do.
If you enjoyed this video,
Sucks kid
But of course,
now.
Harry wouldn't support him because he's not a Zion, because he doesn't advocate for blowing Israel hell into the stratosphere
All right, so yeah.
and for being explicitly anti-Semitic.
So yeah, what do you guys say about Joe Rogan realizing how much of a fucking moron he is? He won't learn
If he
eventually.
gets disappeared for 24 hours,
He's
then
gonna
he understands the horrificness of ICE.
Yep, but of course he'll never learn. All right, now on to the next
As I said,
topic.
because he's retarded.
Yep. So next topic.
I believe it's the last one too. Ukraine is crippling Russia's oil industry.
Very based. And if dipshit, dumb leftists and conservatives won't talk about the Russo-Ukraine war, we'll talk about it. How about that to annoy everyone? So let's watch base Slava Ukraine destroying the Russian Nazi state in another way.
On parts of social media, it has become a familiar sight. Shaky phone footage, often shot at night and accompanied by a soundtrack of creative Russian swearing, showing the view from a random apartment building in the arse end of nowhere. As the clip plays, there's a boom. Maybe a flash of light, or even a fireball, or maybe there's just the distant ominous glow of flames rising up into the night sky. So, no. These aren't candid images of another Chelyabinsk event. Rather, they're testimony to a concerted wartime strategy planned and executed hundreds of kilometers away. A Ukrainian plan to hit Russia where it hurts the most, their oil refining capacity. You see, since August, Russian refineries have been pummeled with drones. 16 out of the nation's 38 refineries have so far been struck. Of those, at least 5 have been hit more than once, with one in Volgograd being struck 4 times in 2 months. By early October, between 4 and 5 such attacks were being reported every week. As The Economist noted, quote, "Soon they will be daily." At this point, some of you may be wondering
Good,
if
good,
this
good.
is a glitch in the Matrix. Didn't we already see a Ukrainian deep strike campaign on Russian oil refineries? The difference between now and the springtime campaign of 2024, though, is one of intensity. Last year, Kiev was only able to strike 2 refineries with any regularity, Krasnodar and Rostov, because they're close to the border. And the explosive payloads the drones carried were far smaller. Now, though, those drones are repeatedly hitting refineries like Salavat in Bashkortostan, which is over 1,400 kilometers away from Ukraine. As Sergei Vakalenko writes in Carnegie Politica, now Ukrainian drones can fly further, carry bigger payloads, and attack more frequently. The refinery attacks are part of a wider deep strike campaign the Ukrainians unleashed at the start of August, one that has also targeted fuel trains, weapons manufacturers, and oil pipelines.
And now a quick word from our sponsor.
Sorry, we're going right to the video.
Capacity that have proven most impactful. Reuters estimates that at least 17% of that capacity is now offline, with some estimates going as high as 38%, although there are good reasons to be wary of such rosy figures. Either way, at least 1 million barrels a day are currently being lost, and that will only increase as more refineries are targeted for repeat attacks, which make damage harder to repair. The impact's already visible on the Russian home front. According to the Financial Times, wholesale prices of petrol have surged by more than 40% since January, with the strikes leading to shortages. Local outlet Kommersant reported that September saw a shortfall of 400,000 tons of petrol out of the 2 million regularly delivered. And that's led to problems. Not everywhere, and not equally distributed, but visible, undeniable problems nonetheless. As is always the case in wartime Russia, these problems have hit the periphery hardest. The Far East and southern central regions were the first to suffer, with about 14% of filling stations in Russia's south being forced to shutter. In other areas, the pro-government newspaper Izvestia reports drivers being limited to only 10 or 20 litres of petrol. Speaking to the BBC, one station owner declared that his industry, quote, haven't had a crisis like this since hyperinflation in 1993 to 1994. But nothing comes close to the problems being reported in occupied Crimea. There, a full 50% of petrol stations have run dry, with the rest implementing rationing. Now, before you get the impression that this is some sort of societal collapse, we should be clear about what sectors are not being affected. The shortages only concern petrol, not diesel. And that's important because diesel is the fuel that runs not only tanks on the battlefield, but also most of the agricultural sector. So there's currently zero chance that this will spiral either into a food crisis or a scenario where military vehicles on the front lines grind to a halt. Different regions are also experiencing the crisis in very different ways. When the BBC spoke to people around Moscow, many seemed unaware that there was a fuel shortage in other parts of the country. And while some problems have been reported at stations around St. Petersburg's Rin Road, the general trend seems to be that the richer western regions are being sheltered from the impact. Still, the regions that are being hit hard. While it's small and independent petrol station owners who are suffering the most, even the big conglomerates are having difficulties. In Astrakhan Oblast in the south, even some Gazprom stations are running dry. You can see the effects just by looking at industry-related statistics and official statements. In September, petrol imports from Belarus to Russia rose 168%. That same month, the Kremlin extended a ban on petrol exports and implemented a new one on diesel exports. However, we should point out that statistics will only get you so far. After the 2024 strike campaign, the government classified the production figures, meaning there's a lot of uncertainty around the precise impact of these refineries going up in
Makes
flames.
you wonder why they want to keep
And
it a
that makes
secret.
evaluating the effectiveness of all of this nearly impossible. In his piece for Carnegie Politica, Sergei Vakalenko points out that the amount of production capacity taken offline is not a static thing. Stricken refineries are repaired, new refineries are hit, and even the ones hit multiple times may have a lot of backup and spare capacity. Just to quote him on a relevant example, Russian refineries tend to have surplus primary distilling capacity and bottlenecks when it comes to secondary treatment and conversion units turning distillates into market-grade fuel. Therefore, the destruction of 1 or 2 identical atmospheric distillation columns in a refinery is more likely to lead to a 30% drop in gasoline production, not 50%, as you might expect. And don't worry if you're now thinking, well, what the fuck is an atmospheric distillation column, Simon? The important part of all of this isn't to grasp the mechanics of the oil industry, just to understand that damaging its capacity is a bit more complex than just drone hits building goes boom. It also depends what part of the refinery is hit. The Economist points out that some pieces of equipment are easier to replace than others. We'll quote them here. The destruction of the cracking units that break down crude oil into petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel is a major difficulty because they are very costly and because the sanctions regime makes them extremely hard to replace. So, each strike on a refinery has a lot of variables that will affect its overall impact. And it also depends on whether a given refinery is being struck for the first or second or even third time. The more hits, the harder it becomes to repair, and the more likely it is to lose production capacity over
Ukraine,
a
keep
longer time.
flooding in,
Nor
please.
is war a one-way street. We've recently seen Russia step up its own attacks on Ukraine's gas production facilities. Engelsberg Ideas has suggested that in a war of deep strikes, Moscow is more likely to prevail. We'll quote them here. Moscow's forces are systematically chewing up Ukraine's electricity, transport, oil refinery, and communication
in the West
systems
must
much
provide them with
faster
every
than Ukraine is
electricity
able
they
to do
need.
the same.
Yep,
End quote.
exactly.
But that doesn't mean you should expect Ukraine's latest strike campaign to stop. Far from it. In fact, there are grounds to believe that Kyiv is only just getting started. You remember a few weeks ago when those Russian drones intruded into Polish airspace?
And next time it happens, Poland, everyone in NATO, shoot them down.
We and many other outlets noted at the time, the incursion
Same goes
revealed
for
a
any
worrying
Russian
gap
Nazi
in
jets.
European air defenses, whereby
Exactly.
multi-million-dollar interceptors were needed to down weapons that only
Reminder
cost the
what happened
Kremlin
to
tens
Turkey
of
10 years
thousands of
ago.
dollars. Well, that's
Yep.
true for Europe, but it's also true for Russia. Most of the recent strikes on refineries have been carried out by Firepoint FP1 drones, which cost a mere $55,000. Even given the fact that multiple drones are shot down for every one that gets through, that still means the Ukrainians are paying close to zero for attacks that can cost the Russians millions and millions. And carrying out successful strikes
Spend
is
more money and run
remarkably
into a
easy.
deficit.
The issue for Moscow is that their country
Exactly.
is, well, really, really big. They've got a lot of refineries, and they've only got limited air defense assets. As the Atlantic Council writes of the wider deep strike campaign, quoting them, the
It would be
Kremlin
a
simply
shame
does
if
not have enough air
Trump
defense
finally
systems
had
to protect
balls and gave them
thousands of potential
tomahawks.
military and energy targets
Please,
spread
Trump, do
across
so.
11 time zones. In short, this is a cost-effective, relatively easy campaign that has the potential to
Which is something the Western world needs to start looking to, using drones as suicide
outsized
weapons.
returns. As President Zelensky
Yeah.
Since
told
Ukraine
Congress,
shows how
quote,
effective they
most
can be.
effective
And
sanctions,
cheap.
the ones that work the fastest, are the fires at Russia's oil refineries, its terminals, oil depots. This speaks to what has become one of Ukraine's core theories of victory, that crippling the economy and making ordinary people feel the pain will force Putin to negotiate. Back in 2024, military intelligence
better yet,
chief
force the
Kirill
Russian
Budanov
people to kill
asserted
them.
that Russia needed to win the war by early
Exactly.
2026 or the Kremlin would face an economic crisis. In the event, while there are clear signs the Russian economy is under strain, issues don't appear to be mounting as fast as Kyiv hoped. The strike campaign, then, can be seen as an attempt to hurry those problems along, to force the Kremlin to make unpleasant trade-offs sooner rather than later. Remember, for all the talk online about Russia's massive tolerance for pain, harkening back to the colossal losses it kept fighting through in World War II, the reality is that Putin is sensitive to public opinion. After the partial mobilization of autumn 2022 caused his popularity to reach one of its lowest ever levels, the Kremlin has taken great pains to avoid another round. At the same time,
Force
it has
him to
tried
make
its best to shield
decisions.
the elite of cities like Moscow from
Exactly.
the effects of the war, while also paying such large bonuses to volunteers from the regions that many once neglected areas are now experiencing economic booms. So the TLDR version is that Putin isn't a guy who likes hard decisions, because he likes being popular. And with these strikes, Ukraine is trying to force him into making unpopular trade-offs. To be clear, those trade-offs are still some way away. Russia can still import from China and Belarus. It has stockpiles it can dip into. Fuel quality standards can be lowered. Petrol rationing could be extended to parts of the nation that are currently unaffected. At the moment, the campaign is more of a costly annoyance and an embarrassment to the Kremlin than any sort of existential threat. And we need to emphasize that some believe it may stay that way. Speaking to The Telegraph, Rusi analyst Emily Ferris noted that while the strikes are a source of major frustration for Moscow, at this stage, quote, the situation is not critical. Russia has enough oil and gas reserves and financial reserves to push through this inconvenience, and the goal of subjugating Ukraine is much more of a valued prize. And look, she's not the only one. Writing in Engelsberg Ideas, Owen Matthews points out that Ukraine's economy is a tenth the size of Russia's, adds that its own infrastructure and energy are taking a pummeling. In his own words, under present circumstances, a Ukrainian economic and military collapse still remains likelier than a Russian one.
Let's make sure that doesn't happen instead. How about that?
For other
Pretty
analysts,
much,
the
that'd be
important
good.
thing isn't what the strike campaign is achieving today, but what it might accomplish in the near future. Part of this is the increasing tempo we mentioned earlier. From a couple of strikes a week in August, Ukraine has gone on to hitting targets up to 4 or 5 times a week. Should the attacks become a daily occurrence, a lot more refineries may wind up sustaining damage that takes a long time and a lot of expense to repair.
Please, base
And then there's the unknown factor of Ukraine's new domestically
That's right,
produced
use that
cruise
new
missile,
Flamingo
the
missile.
FP5 Flamingo. A relatively crude weapon, it's unable to pull off the truly complex maneuvers that make some of Russia's best missiles so tricky to intercept. But the goal seems to be to make up for the likely high shoot-down rate with 2 things: cheap mass production and an insanely large warhead. Clocking it at over 1,000 kilograms,
like in World War II,
the
just
Flamingo's
flood in with
warhead is,
everything.
to use a technical term, fucking massive. It's twice the size of a Tomahawk's, and while the Tomahawk is far more stealthy and cutting edge, Kiev's hope seems to be that it can produce enough Flamingos at an affordable cost to ensure that those massive warheads
right now,
occasionally make
quality's
it
not the most important thing, it's quantity. You just need to flood in with every single thing.
through to strike their targets.
Exactly.
Quote the Atlantic Council again.
Versus
If
the
Kiev
Russian
reaches its
Nazi
goal of
state
mass-produced
can't keep up.
long-range cruise missiles, the consequences for Russia's refineries, ports, and pipelines could be catastrophic. Now look, the Flamingo isn't slated to go into mass production until the end of the year, but even until the point it can be routinely used to strike Russian infrastructure, Kiev can still dial up the pressure. If more refineries start being struck, and more of those are struck repeatedly, well then the problems for the Kremlin will start to mount. Here's Sergei Vakulenko one more time. Russia's oil refineries are a bit like a man who is being repeatedly punched. He will not die from one punch, or even half a dozen punches, but it becomes harder and harder for him to recover after each subsequent blow. Although no single punch is fatal, he could end up being beaten to death. And again, look, we need to emphasize that any sort of crisis for Russia is still a long way off. The likelihood that you check the news tomorrow and see a story about Putin being lynched by angry Russian drivers is remote, but that's also not the goal. The Ukrainian goal, as far as we can tell, is to keep increasing the pressure on a Russian economy that's already flashing some warning signs. An economy that's feeling the strain even as the strain on the front line also grows. Just a couple of days ago, a leaked Russian document appeared to show that Moscow saw 87,000 troops killed in action between January and September of this year.
Oh yeah, that was a leak that happened recently. The other leak I saw, it was up to 253,000 killed, and that was this year alone.
That is not casualties, which typically includes the wounded, the missing, and soldiers who died away from the battlefield.
The overall death toll over 1 million.
It is
well over 1 million.
The casualties over 1.1 million now, remember.
Causes, but killed in action. By way of comparison, the United States saw slightly under 41,000 troops killed in action in the entire Vietnam War. Moscow lost over double that in a mere 9 months of fighting.
Maybe
Those
because
numbers
maybe the
are
Russian Nazi
unsustainable,
states
at
inferior
least
wars,
without a
unlike
massively
America.
unpopular general
Ever
mobilization.
consider
We
that?
can already see the impact this is having.
Pretty
on
much.
officers. After years in which ever-growing sign-up
There's
bonuses
also
kept a steady
possibly
stream of
different tactics used as well.
Wait, I've already explained
Like
before.
Russia's just using human wave tactics, while America have been using other tactics. Used to work for the Soviets, doesn't work now.
I told you, just like in Hoy 4 terms, America and the West use superior firepower doctrine. The Soviets use mass assault.
Troops coming to the front. The first reports are coming in of regions struggling to meet their recruitment targets. Again,
The
things are
West's
far
goal
from
is just
crisis
flood in
levels
with
here.
everything and have as low
Ukraine's gamble
casualties.
is that massive
Mass
losses
assault
on a
is just
front
throw
line
everything
that
you
is
got in.
only
Millions of
moving forwards at
people.
a glacial pace, combined with mounting strikes on
And
critical
fail.
homeland infrastructure, might be enough to cause Putin to throw in the towel and cut a peace deal. Will it work? Who knows? The last 3.5 years of war have shown that many assumptions about Putin's threshold for pain have been proven wrong. The West gambled on massive sanctions to bring him to the table. The Ukrainians tried to turn the war into another Afghanistan, hoping to kill so many Russian soldiers that
they
families
are.
would pressure Putin into ending the war.
Yeah.
Both of those theories of victory turned out to be flawed. And who's to say that today's long-range strikes on oil refineries won't go the same way? But the fact is that Ukraine's latest campaign is having an impact, one that's starting to trickle through to ordinary Russians. Whether that's enough to finally cause Putin to call a halt to his war of conquest is just something we'll have to wait and see.
And it absolutely must happen. So yeah, what do you guys say about that? Since no one else will cover it, we'll cover what based Ukraine is doing to the Russian Nazi state. Make it more expensive and expensive and expensive to fight the war.
Which is a good thing, and it's working slowly.
Yep. And
I mean, if Trump says that it looks that Ukraine could take all of its land back, including Crimea. Well,
he did say that, people. Now, of course, we still don't trust or believe anything he says. We can never trust him. But if he says the right thing and does the right thing, we'll give him credit. But the trust issues are going to always be there. But Slava Ukraine, down with the Russian Nazi state. And hope they'll scare red fascist China away from Taiwan and everyone.
Exactly, yeah.
So with that, guys, how about that? We have done all the topics, and hopefully next time we actually have a topic we wanted to cover, but we need more time to cover. Write down all that. So see you all next time for episode 141.